Okay, street markings using texture painting. I want to do just a really quick version of this first, just kind of show you that the tool itself is very straightforward. So we make a new material here. Let's call it road, and we go into texture paint. Yes. We open up this side panel here, and under tool, we'll create a new texture slot. Base color, maybe 3000 by, yeah, sure. Make it a road color. Okay, and there we go. And now if we we can draw on it if we want. That's very cool. But if we open up texture here, let's make this white again. We can load in an image, and so we'll go new, and we can call this. We don't have to even change the name, but the most counterintuitive part. Actually, there's multiple counterintuitive parts. But if you want to add a texture into there, you have to go into this texture panel way over here, which you'd think it'd be here, but it isn't. So I'm gonna load in something I've made earlier, and maybe we'll get into how to make those. If we change this mapping to stencil, we get this thing, and if we right click, we can control it. Control click, rotates, shift scales, yeah. And oh, where did it? Oh, I undid. Okay, there we go. Reset transformation. Where did it go? Where? Oh, I undid that. Okay, that's the problem there. Okay, so if we rotate this 90 degrees, I like using this because it's hard to kind of like lock that in. And let's make our brush a little smaller. Maybe slightly larger. Yeah, but now we can just paint over it, and it creates a crosswalk. And maybe just line this up and get the last little bit here. And because it's just a stencil, let's use some. It's like spray paint, Let's use some yellow, and maybe, yeah, make this like 11. Look at that. So maybe start. So you can just put little. You can start mocking up your road. And the reason this is kind of cool is because a lot of times you'll have a road texture that sprawls across a lot of stuff, but all of the markings have to be in very specific places. And this is a way to just kind of be able to walk around your scene and put down stuff, wherever you want. Okay, so that was kind of the quick version. Now I want to get into a little bit more refined version, so we're varying from this instead of trying to introduce all of it at once. I've been working on the hyperbole sequence, which I think is going to be pretty fun. Working on an environment. Ideally, I can kind of copy and paste a lot of this to fill out, the rest of the track and things like that. The crowds are the little people I just put on the tier 7 folks. They've been really fun. As long as you don't get too close, they get a little bit woo. But yeah, so this is the freeway. This is the racetrack, and in real life, racetracks are just a very flat, road color, gray. And I wanted to have all these markings like on an aircraft landing strip, and so that's why I came up with all these stencils to kind of just let me put this together really quick. And so here, actually, let me show you the scene just because it's kind of fun. Woo! Yeah. Anyways, yeah, you've seen that. Slow version. Here we go. Okay, don't save that. So in edit mode, I'm gonna scale this up. Oop. There we go. Scale this out like that. Same thing as before. Create a new material. We'll call it road. Load an image texture. And I'll bring in tileable road. And if we go into material view, there we go. Our road now has a little bit of a material on it. And I'm going to slide open the UV editor here because, let's see, if you're... like if we have a long section of road right here, you can see if we get in here, it's stretching also the texture under it. And UVs are the method by which we tell the computer how we want to apply our image to the object. And so right here, we have our image, we have our object, and if I hit tab, you can see the same polygon represented here. And so if I rotate it like this and shrink it way down so it's only on this bit, that little bit is then represented. And I'm sorry, I know that's some extreme basics, but in the case of this, since this is stretched, if we scale this out in either way, it'll actually just loop it. It'll just repeat the image over and over. And so now it's not as stretched, which is kind of cool. Unfortunately, what that means is if we go into texture paint and paint on there, it'll show that same loop. It's just using the same bit over and over. So what we want to do is we want to create a new layer with that. And so yeah, texture paint, click plus right here. Let's do base color. Here, let me go into the shader editor. When you add a new thing here, a lot of times it'll actually connect it for you. Like if I go normal, boop, it connects the whole thing all up, and then I can just paint right on the normal. But what we want to do is we want to, let's say base color, sure. And it's a lot wider than it is tall. It'll automatically stretch it, so I'm not too particularly worried. The most important part here is this A right here stands for alpha, and we want to slide it all the way down. You can see now the checkerboard. That means it'll be transparent. We'll have just our transparent layer on top that we can paint on top of. So if we click OK, base color is already in use, so it doesn't do anything. In fact, if we paint on this right now, we won't see anything because it's doing stuff, but it's not connected. So I'm going to add a mix RGB and just stick this right there. And it looks like this is under. If you come from like a composite or Photoshop, whatever background, you're like, this is underneath. It's because this system was created by a programmer who said this is the first order of operations, and then we work down and we do this one. And so this is actually on top. But now if we paint it, look at that, we can see it because it's this layer right here. Unfortunately, it's still looping, and that's because everything by default uses the exact same UV map. And so this is tiling the same way this is. We can fix that so easily though. Under the object data properties here, you can see the UV map. And so we'll just call this regular road, but we can also add a new one and call it markings. Yeah, I don't know if the camera matters. But ideally, the first one is going to be the default. But that means if we go over here and do input UV map, drag that down like this. Okay, it's still repeating. That's easy. We'll just go back in the UV editor here and shrink it down, back down to that, and now it sticks, which is very nice. In fact, I wonder if we can just stretch to. Probably there's a way to do that, but I don't know. I don't know what it is, and I'm not particularly worried right now. Okay, so now we can do that exact same thing that we were doing earlier. We load in our texture, new, we'll call it markings, and under the texture tab, we will load in one of our different things, and I'll show you how to make some of these too. Yeah, and if we change the mapping to stencil, we get our stencil, and we can just look at that. We just paint right on it. And so I like to go into a top view and kind of, whoa. I will say these are not counterintuitive. They wanted to give you multiple systems for, they want to leave you all of your regular navigation tools while also giving you a way to navigate this. And so none of those tools are particularly intuitive. In fact, oh, okay. Where did it? I just hit undo to try to undo the transformation on the stencil, and that didn't work, which is why a lot of times I just change it right here. So okay, here we go. That was not the one I meant to do. Shift scale, yes. Okay. Right click over there, change this to be like 11. Let's zoom in. Okay, make it kind of yellow. Cool. Maybe another line here. Yeah, and do some white stuff. And the crosswalk, yes. Maybe bigger. Okay. Cool. That's kind of cool. So if you think, but now we can start tweaking stuff in the shader editor. Like this is all you need. Okay. No, there is actually one more thing which is important, and that is you have to save this new image. We've just created a new image inside of Blender, and a lot of times if you close Blender, it'll ask you, hey, do you want to save this new image you made? But and I think it always does that for the first texture, but then the second one it doesn't. I don't even know. So it's just good to do it by hand. So up here in the UV editor, go image, save, and it'll ask you where you want to save it, and I'll be like, save it here. And so now this is actually, now it's saved, and you have to do this for all the different textures you do. I think there's a way to also like save all images, yeah, which is good. But I have been recently burned by this, and so I just thought maybe you would want to not be. Stop. Boop. boop, boop. Okay, so now let's get a little bit more complicated with our road setup. Yeah. Cool. Go into the shader editor, and the first thing we're gonna do is we can control the mix factor here. Like you can see, oh, okay, it looked like it was working because these were just mixed 50-50, but you can see actually it wasn't using the alpha value. It's using a straight black background. So what we got to do is for the road markings here, we have to use that alpha, drag it up to the mix factor, and there we go. Now it's actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. That's cool. Okay, but that means we can control the alpha here, which is kind of nifty. So let's mix in some other stuff. Mix RGB into that alpha, and I'm going to create a Musgrave texture and drag that into the mix factor here. Ooh, what's this? What's this gonna do? Interesting. Okay, yeah, and so now this texture is actually controlling the alpha. It's mixed in with the alpha, controlling the transparency here. And it's doing a little bit of weird stuff. First, it is stretching all the way along this image, and that's because it's also using our stretched UV settings. If you want to ever avoid that, here, I use the Node Wrangler. It's an add-on which you should totally activate because it means you can just hit Control-T and get all of this other stuff here. I'm going to use Object, and that uses the object scale so that this is more uniform. And the fact that it's still maybe looking a little stretched, I'm going to go in Object mode here and try applying scale. And there we go. Yeah, and everything is uniform without being stretched. Kind of cool that it's stretched. It kind of looks a little bit like burnt tire marks or something like that. But yeah, now we've got that, and now we can control this Musgrave texture a little bit. Like we could increase the contrast to make it, you know, just like how much is eaten away. Kind of cool. Maybe increase the detail. Woo! Yeah, you guys probably know. You probably want to keep it pretty subtle, and maybe keep the contrast down to kind of, yeah. And what else could we do? We'd actually do a very similar thing. Let's plug this into the roughness to get some random specular here. Let's get rid of all this. Nodes quickly start to look very complicated, but this is just that same Musgrave texture with the object's coordinate, and I'm gonna plug it right into the roughness, and my guess is it's not gonna work right off the bat. Yeah, because we have to convert it from, right now this is just like fractal data. Let's convert it into a color. So we'll go converter, color ramp, and this is just gonna map this from 0, black, to white, 1. And let's see what happens here. Okay, turn up the specular. It's possible it was doing something before, but cool. Oh, there's a moth in my face. So that's kind of fun. Maybe it never gets that shiny. Kind of up to you. I mean, this looks bad. Like I do know that. But if you start mixing this with other stuff, for example, I have. Let's see. Let's use this tileable road thing here, and I'm gonna mix it. Let's see. This is where it starts to get a little bit complicated. But I'm gonna mix in an RGB here. I'm going to mix the colors of this color ramp with another image texture, and this is shine. Plug that in here, and look at that. Now we can kind of mix in. It's just stretching this one tire track all the way along here. And right now the shine is using the exact same UV coordinates as the tileable road, which is actually probably okay. If we go into edit mode here, you can see it using that. And we can scale it like this so that we get actually like multiple lanes. This is those grooves that are left behind after cars have driven over something, you know, 10,000 times. But unfortunately, that also is stretching, you know, the rest of our texture. So let's just do what we've already done. We'll make a new UV map. We'll call this Grooves. And make a new input UV map here. Where is it? There we go. Call it Grooves. Plug that in. And now we can specifically control just that. And sometimes it's hard to tell. What is the positive? What is the negative space? Yeah, that's kind of nifty. Honestly, I think I probably want to use mostly. Yeah, one thing actually that I do, and here's the tileable road right here. In fact, let's ignore some of this. I'll leave it. But the other thing you see is that the grooves are actually darker because they've collected oil and maybe even like melted rubber. I have no idea. But I want to use some of this not just to power the roughness, but as color data. So I'm gonna move this mix up here and plug some of this into there too. Ooh, and that's, if I change it to multiply, we can just darken that just a little bit if we want to. Or or instead of just mixing these two, we could use this to control the mix factor and just darken by making this black. Interesting. Or we could plug this into both and darken one of them. And oh, not multiply, just mix. And here, let's see. Yeah, we'll ignore this roughness for now. But yeah, now we're mixing. So we're using this tileable road is going to the mix twice. One of them is just darkened a little bit, but the mix between which one of them is used is all still coming from this shine texture, which if we Control-Shift-click on it, we get a viewer node. Woo! And that shows you what is up. The black is the one texture, the white's the other. If you ever want to escape the viewer node, you just click, I think, on the last node, and that kind of resets it. But yeah, these are some kind of fun ways to get stuff going. I really do want to get a better roughness texture going. In fact, instead of this Musgrave, let's say that was wrong. That was wrong of us. Let's see. I'm gonna what's a good way to do this here? If I just have this and hit Control T, does it? It does. It loads in a bunch of stuff. That's great. Okay. So I'm not even going to use that. I'm just going to drag it over here into the roughness and load in some sort of texture that looks like it could be a road. That looks pretty good. I think it's on the wrong axis, but yeah. So let's see. Can we rotate it 90 degrees? Oh, that was the wrong way. Nope. Interesting. We could also make, my guess is one of the pre-existing UV maps for this would help. Oh, we can just scale it, I think. That's fine. We could, actually, what we should probably do is not plug it into that. We'll plug it into the normal map. We'll make it a bump map instead. Yeah, doesn't do anything because we have to use a converter. Nope, vector, bump map. Plug it into the height. If we turn down the distance here, maybe invert it. Yeah, now we've got some kind of cracks in the road. We definitely have some awkward stretching, but a larger texture without this like distinctive groove along it would probably help. In fact, let's just do it. We covered all this stuff. Now we're just kind of trying to jam, trying to see what type of road we can make. Did that not load in the new, or is it just? Oh no. Okay, here we go. Rotate it like that. Cool. Turn on that strength. Yeah. Okay. So this is an interesting way to kind of make a thing here. We'll plug in the roughness just to get the full experience. Play around with how shiny. Black is perfectly shiny. White is slightly less shiny. So yeah, I would believe this is a road. And let's stick a big Hyperbole logo on there. Go back into texture paint. We still got our thing here, but we want to load in a new one. So in the texture thing, it's still using this. I am going to just load in this other one. Yes, random words. It's stretched because it always imports it as a square. But in these tools here, we can just click image aspect, and that fixes that. And let's get rid of that rotation. And hyperbole. Yes. Oh. Every time. Sometimes it can look a little bit, I think they shrink this so it doesn't get too big. But, oh no! Oh, wait, why was that? Road base color. I think that's why. And now, why is it doing that? Oh no, Ian, don't say we've gone off the rails right at the end. I mean, it looks cool. It does look cool. Let's find out which one we're actually trying to use here. My guess is I'm in the wrong one with the wrong UV map. Road base color. Road base color. That's what we're doing. Oh, it doesn't even have a thing selected. So let's say markings. Okay, now it's working. Okay, so just make sure everything is actually set up the way it's supposed to and not the way that I didn't. So, Hyperbole, Speed Beyond Imagination, sponsored by KLAQ. Apparently, all radio stations west of the Mississippi River start with K, and all of them east start with something else. I don't know, in the United States. Okay, so now how do we get these stencils here? I'm gonna upload these ones and maybe see if I can come up with one that's like a little bit more useful, just standard street things, not specifically hyperbole warnings. But I told you I made this in Photoshop, but Blender might actually make it a little bit easier. So let's go make a new, yes, save the modified images. You want to do that or you'll lose your work. I'm going to hit Alt-R to get rid of all rotation on this camera, and then under the camera settings, I'm going to change it to orthographic, and that means, like, you can see this cube is really close, and this cube here is very far away, but from the camera view, they both look the same distance, and that's because there's no perspective, which is just nice for trying to work in graphic type stuff. And so first, we could create some text here, and say, like, no right turn, and load in a font that's good. Let's see, Gothic. Yeah, this one's nice, and this looks kind of like a road font, and duplicate that as like a stop, bus lane. Yes, and actually, a lot of times, let's see, where's the alignment? Center. Yeah, and a lot of times actually they're scaled like this too, but you can do that in the texture, in the stencil settings. But we'll leave that right there. And then kind of the fun stuff, if we're making like a crosswalk here, we can just set up an array and just try to make it, you know, every on-off thing. And there we go, we got a little crosswalk. Or if we want to make those kind of like angled bits, we could do something like, oh, there we go. We can just do that, which is kind of nifty. And then, maybe we could do like a Boolean. We'll see. We'll see if this part works. I have no idea. Yeah! Controls, I have the bool tool turned on, which means it can automatically create a Boolean, which means the, if I control star on the numpad, click on this, only where this mesh is does the rest of it appear, which is a very handy thing to be able to do. I don't know if I'm going to get into a full bool tool tutorial in this one, but then let's see if we, if we apply, there we go, we've got our object, and then we could kind of set up a border. I don't know if you even recognize like the bit that I'm trying to make here. It's like when you have the lanes merging or there's an on-ramp or an exit or something like that. And then you could select these and hit Control B to kind of maybe smooth them out just a little bit. Yeah, better as a crosswalk. Let's see, what else can we do? We could make oh yeah, in America, a high occupancy vehicle, a carpool lane, looks like a diamond, just like that. So you could set that up. Oh, arrows. Okay, yeah. This is kind of fun. So let's go into a curve, a Bezier right here, and if you hit V, you can change the control handle type. So I'm just gonna make it all vector here. Let's just start with this. Extrude it up. I'm gonna try to make an arrow. Kind of just eyeballing it. And if I hit Alt-C, it'll close it on up. Great. And now I can go back into here, toggle these back to automatic. Hopefully kind of smooth stuff out a little bit. Yeah, that's not bad at all. I know I sound cocky, but it's free drawing an arrow is kind of tricky, actually. Okay, so how do we fill it in? Under the object data properties here, I'm gonna make it 2D and just change the fill to like front. And there we go. We got our arrow. You can easily tweak it. And again, in real life, if you look like, because they're expecting cars to drive like this, a lot of times they're actually stretched kind of like that, and they look all funky. But again, I will leave that up to you. And so what you do then is you would just make sure you have an alpha channel. You're in a format like PNG with an alpha channel here. Hit render. Oh, and I think that's actually, oh, no. Under the render properties, under film, make sure transparent is checked. And now, there we go. This isn't all the same color. You could give it like an emissive texture or something and make it like flat white. In fact, okay, fine. If we bring it up, we gotta do it. That's the rules, right? Link, materials, yes. Og, yes. F12. And I'm gonna save this as the most important ones. And now we can use it. You've already seen me do this 3 times. You get it by now, right? This tutorial is done. It's over. We did it. Making our material. Go into texture paint. Go tool. Make a new one. It's a base color. Okay. Load in your texture. Go new. It's the baba. Make it a stencil. Load in the thing. Go over here. Road. Boop boo. And we've got them. Click the image aspect. And now we can add our amazing thing. We made our texture a little bit low res, and so it's a little bit low res. Look at me, look, it's my diary. No, life is good. Yeah, all right, that's the thing. I'll upload some of these textures and things, and hopefully this was somewhat useful, and I'll talk to you later.